Is this working? I I don't want to be impatient. Ah, it is working. I set up a keyboard shortcut so it didn't have to go to the desktop and everything. I don't want to be impatient. Ah, it is
That's
working.
good.
And the sound is fine too. I set up a keyboard shortcut so it didn't have to go to the desktop and everything. I don't want to be impatient. Ah, it
All
is
right
working.
then. Hey, you
And the sound is
folks.
fine too. I set up a keyboard
I
shortcut so it didn't have to go to the desktop and everything. I don't want to be impatient. Now I have to go to the desktop. Ah, it
All
is
right
working.
then. Hey, you
And the sound is
folks.
fine too. I set up a keyboard
I
shortcut so it didn't have to go to the
Yeah,
desktop.
you'll need to turn the volume down
Now
on
I have to
that.
go to the desktop. No, there we go. Uh, I had this all set up perfectly, and then I didn't.
Yeah,
Okay.
so what are we talking about this evening?
The proper intro. This is RGCWV Random Geek Culture in West Virginia. With me tonight is Alex McLean and Mike Amallo
Yo,
from Hazel's Room.
live from Hazel's room. That's
Live from
correct.
Hazel's Room.
He
So,
doesn't use it.
so I wanted to have a conversation about last week and what happened all this week, which is the PS5 reveal event. Um,
Oh God, I thought this was about Pokemon.
So did I. The snap.
Yeah,
the snap.
I thought this was. I prepared for the wrong notes, man.
Oh, geez, yeah.
But
Uh,
yeah, that is the other gaming news. Is PS5 announcement.
yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, but that that I really really like that event. And if E3 had been there this year, I mean, they probably would have taken the whole event. But of course, we don't know what Microsoft is going to say on Monday. So
That's true.
we're gonna see what happens because Microsoft's big reveal event is Monday.
Now, real talk though. Do you any of you all have an Xbox or have ever had an Xbox?
I've
No.
had a 360,
Have
um,
you?
and I enjoyed it while I had it, um, but it got to the point where I was like, I might as well just use my PC. But
Yeah.
at that point, my PC was running great, and but I've just gotten so tired of keeping up with updates, keeping up with video cards, and also my video game PC is also the PC that I do this video work on, the PC that my wife does stuff on, and so anytime I'd want to go play a game, just want to play a game, I'd have to wait for an update. Hardware would need to be updated, so I got tired of it. I mean, I still use my PC from time to time, usually for multiplayers like Overwatch. But if it's a single player experience, I'm I'm gonna boot up my PlayStation. And I
I
mean,
agree.
shoot, I mean, I even convinced Alex to buy his PlayStation 4. Yeah, but of course, I did that because Final Fantasy 7 was coming. So
Yeah. I think I told my story. I bought my PS4 the summer they announced the Final Fantasy 7 remake, which I guess was 2015. So
yeah,
I was starting to get worried that I wasn't going to get to use it for that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I just caught it in the last minute.
speaking of that, speaking of a game
Yeah.
that was announced for PlayStation 4 that may be a 5 title now, even though they haven't announced it, but I mean, we're going to see what happens. I mean, I feel like it would be a major redesign if they did make it an exclusive 5 is Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk 2077 just got delayed
Oh,
again.
did it? I missed
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it got delayed. It's now November 17th or something like that.
So only
Uh
2 more months.
yeah, but now it's the same now it's in the same time frame as uh, when the PlayStation comes out. So
Yeah.
in the Xbox.
Still better than its original date of like 3 days before Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
That would have been rough.
that would have been really rough. I mean, I was telling Cassie um, today, no, yesterday, it doesn't matter, that uh, now this is going to be my winter game, my Christmas vacation game. I mean, last year was Spider-Man, and I loved being able to just go through the entire Spider-Man story in just a couple weeks, and like I was all Spider-Man that time, and that's going to be Cyberpunk this year, and hopefully it does be a PlayStation 4 title because I don't know about you guys, but as far as the catalog lineup, right now the day one releases are only going to be the new Spider-Man Miles Morales, not Spider-Man 2. It's a
Yeah,
spin-off title,
make
but
it clear.
yeah, Spider-Man Miles Morales, which looks awesome, like really cool. um, Go ahead, Alex.
Oh, I loved. I think Spider-Man is perhaps the best title or among the best titles for PS4, and like that's going to be a console seller. If PS5 has Miles Morales as a release title or an early release window title, that's a console seller.
Right, right. And then of course Ratchet and Clank, which I mean, I've never been a big Ratchet and Clank fan, but
Same.
that trailer going through the universes, that looked really cool. It's one where I'm probably going to want to play it. However, because of this lineup, I don't think I'm going to be a day one adopter of any system.
Probably the same. Probably the same. I don't foresee myself getting this soon. I'll get around to it.
Yeah.
I've always had a hard and fast rule about not buying a console within the first year of release. Probably the one have ever bought the earliest was probably the Switch, and even then that was like 6 to 9 months, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I mean, what was I for the Switch? It was almost 2 years.
Yeah,
Maybe even a little bit longer. Oh, by the way, thanks, Mike, for letting me borrow your Switch again.
yeah, got a nice taste for it.
I mean, uh, you letting me borrow your Switch for what was it, 6 months or something like that?
Yeah, yeah, about 6 months.
Um, Provided me with one of my favorite gaming experiences, which was playing Breath of the Wild, both on the big screen TV and also right in the comfort of my couch while the girls were watching a show or something, which Cassie loved and Bella loved. They loved being able to, just I was there. I was playing my games and I was there. I was there. And that's the same way that I'm playing Fallout 76 is playing it on the couch is because I don't that's a different podcast. That's a
We
different
say we
podcast.
still got to do that episode yet.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
Now, I noticed on your list that you didn't mention Horizon Forbidden West, which, as has been reported on this podcast, is my Zero Dawn was my favorite game of the last decade. So I'm jazzed about it.
That's the one that I got to get to. I plan on getting to that. It's high on my list.
Well, it's coming for PC along with Death Stranding.
Yeah.
So, and Alex, I know that you have an actual rock and roll system, at least a rock and roll video card. So
No, my whole system's rock and roll. Don't you forget it.
I mean, obviously forgot it. You say things I don't listen.
Quick sidebar.
Same here, man.
You were saying, Mike?
Quick sidebar. I know you really wanted to do a Death Stranding episode, although you're the only one who had played it. I
I
finally
know.
decided to get it, but I decided on the last day of the sale, and then I forgot to do it till next morning. And by then the sale was over, so I missed it.
Man. and I don't have like the physical copy, so I can't like let you borrow it.
Yeah, okay. And that's fine.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It'll go.
I'm sure
It'll be
it's.
on sale again soon.
Yeah, it's going to be on sale again, especially since they saw that the numbers for the sales of that game went way up when it went 60% off. $24. So I
Yeah.
think that's 60% off.
And well, the reason I decided is I got to the last day of my pay cycle and I realized I still had $24 left in my reserve account. So I was like, "Hey, I'm going to do that," and then completely forgot to. Well, I fell asleep early, and then woke up the next morning. I was like, "Dang, I didn't do it."
Well, you know, that gets to another point, and that's something that PlayStation needs to fix for the next generation. So I would have loved to been able to either okay, well, let me just tell you about this scenario. So, buddy of mine, kid in high school, he I was trying to talk him into getting Metal Gear Solid 5 because I love that game. That game is awesome. I mean, controversy aside, that game is awesome.
You said
So
that every episode.
so anyway, it was only $5, and I was telling him to buy it. I got home and I was gonna buy it for him and send it to him, like with Steam and Xbox, I think. But there's no way to do it. There's no way to do it. You can't buy somebody a game and send it to them. Why is that? It's just I thought Nintendo was the only one that did stupid online things that don't make any sense, but that is one that doesn't make any sense at all.
I had that problem recently too with the Switch, with because Hazel wanted to get Minecraft, and I wanted to have a physical copy of it, but you can't find a physical copy of it anywhere now.
Mm,
And I didn't. I could buy it digitally and give it to her, but I didn't want a digital copy because I want her to be able to move it if she needs to.
right. Right,
Uh,
because you got the two systems now.
yeah,
So,
we got a little bit of overlap in our accounts that it's kind of irritating.
so um but talking about Forbidden West, I mean, that's not going to be a launch title. In fact, they're
Yeah.
saying it might be 2022 before it comes out. Maybe
Hey.
holiday next year, 2021. But
Yeah.
that's not a hard. They're not far enough in the development cycle to say yes, it's coming holiday next year.
And I'm fine with that. Like I said, I don't want to run and get a PS5 first day anyway. So
And
you
that
want,
and that's another thing too, as far as like not minding. I don't mind the fact that they've pushed back Cyberpunk again, because I mean, Witcher 3 was pushed back 3 times, I think. It was either 2 or 3 times, but it was pushed back, and that is my number one game of the last decade, and it's a phenomenal game. And take your time, developers. I'd rather the game be fantastic than a rushed product.
yeah.
You know.
How many times has a game been criticized that, well, they rushed it out, it wasn't ready for development, it wasn't ready for production, but so it's missing a lot of features, so this is what you get.
Speaking of Fallout 76,
Right?
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh man,
like you said, another episode, another episode.
another episode. So oh, so talking about the PlayStation, the picture of it is on the tag image of the episode. But just look it up. Just look it up. Very strange design, but yet kind of makes sense. How the PlayStation is set is there's actually two separate cooling chambers. There's there's one that's specifically the power supply, like a computer. It has its own cooling unit. And then it's got the main CPU GPU area that it's its own cooling chamber. So both of them vent their heat out of the top in two separate spaces. Now, you can lay the thing on its side, but I don't think that that would be really ideal for cooling purposes.
Yeah.
Um,
I think both Sony and Microsoft do not want another Xbox 360 Red Ring of Death.
Yeah,
Both of them
right.
are taking considerable measures to never do that again.
Right. Um,
Which design do you like better between the two systems?
In terms of look, I kind of don't like the extravagant appearance of the PS4. I think it will look a bit silly on my shelf. I like sleek, streamlined designs, and the Xbox One Series X2, what's it called? Yeah. Uh,
I think you got some of those
um,
words right.
it looks like it looks like a box, but I don't know. It looks unobtrusive.
So your choices are the obelisk from 2001 or a Daft Punk album. That's kind of where you're at.
That's that's exactly it.
and you know how much of a fan I am of Daft Punk, so and I mean
Yeah,
between
I thought you laughed harder at that joke.
yeah. Yeah, well, Alex was laughing, so I didn't want to step
Yeah,
on his toes.
he got it.
We all got it. We all got.
Yeah,
No,
that's yeah.
I mean, me myself, I actually like the PlayStation design. I will like it more when they come out with a sleeker one, like they did with the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 3. However, I of the two, I think okay, I am all for a sleek design, but when I look at the Xbox, it's so plain Jane, it's forgettable. You know what I mean?
I
I
think
can see
it's
that.
minimalist.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I agree with your stance, but you're wrong. So I don't.
That's my line.
Hey, when you have the monkeys come in and start pounding bones at it, you're going to know that you made the right
Yeah,
choice.
yeah, yeah. It's yeah, and you know what? That's exactly a great point. The Xbox is a perfect design to appeal to Neanderthals.
Oh. Ah.
Well, you
Deep.
counterpoint. The whole point of that object in that movie was to advance evolution. So technically, it's the next generation. So that is exactly what it's doing.
He's
Okay.
got you there.
Yeah, no, he
That's
doesn't.
right. I don't really care about it. That
um,
wasn't a defense of it.
so, since we're on the subject of Xbox, I'd like to take a beat to talk about one of their new features that out of the gate makes sense and making a make sense announcement at the beginning of the system release is what won it for PlayStation in this last generation. They Microsoft made a bad announcement and it ruined their reputation, and PlayStation comes back and says, "Hey, we're not doing that." Well, I'm talking about the physical media thing. Um,
Uh,
yeah, it killed their reputation for the last generation. But
well, that
but
always online thing did too. That's what I
yeah,
thought you were talking about.
yeah, exactly. But the Xbox, they have actually made a good announcement that may help them win, and Sony needs to make a counterpoint to that if they're not going to make everybody flock over to Xbox. And I'm talking about smart delivery. The smart delivery system that's coming to Xbox, they are saying that if you buy any game right now, that it will automatically work on the new system with updates. So if you buy a physical media and it's an Xbox physical media, and you pop it into your current Xbox, it'll work, and it'll work to the best of that system's ability. And then you pop it into the new Xbox Series Obelisk, and that will work to the best of its ability. So what it's saying is you will automatically be upgraded to whatever system you put it in. So what I'm saying is, like, for instance, we're talking about Cyberpunk coming out for PlayStation 4. I would like to know if I buy that disc or I buy it online, or which one I have to do, because I don't know if I have to do one or the other right now. If I buy the game, is it going to be able to work on the next system, or if I'm going to have to buy it again? Microsoft has even gone farther to say that if you have any save files, that those will automatically transfer over, which makes sense,
Yeah.
But that's an announcement that makes sense that Sony just has no reason not to just go ahead and say, but they haven't. They haven't said definitively if that's going to work.
So I think my biggest takeaway from the PS5 announcement is in being different than other product announcements. In the past, these things have often been about tech specs. They're often about the PS4 is going to have a 2.4 gigahertz ARM 9 processor or whatever it has. Well, the Xbox is going to have a 2.7 gigahertz Intel processor with 336 gigabits per second memory bandwidth, and back and forth with tech specs. They list these as key features as be in the past as being this is why you have to buy an Xbox 360 because it has 500 gigabytes of storage space. And recently in the PS5 product announcement, they really didn't talk about the tech specs because at this point I think they're meaningless. That
Yeah.
they talked about two big things, product features and console exclusives. Kind of mixed feelings about both of those, but I think these days console exclusives sell a system more than some number being bigger than the other company's number.
I think you're right there.
Uh,
Yeah, product or the console releases are the only time where I ever heard the term teraflops. But I heard it early on when they were kind of measuring specs, and then it kind of went away. Um, but yeah, the exclusivity with the games I think really hit home. I think that was the big thing to me. Of course, I'm kind of in PlayStation's camp anyways for that reason, because I know I'm always going to get a Final Fantasy VII sequel on there.
Right. There just aren't games for Xbox that I care about.
Yeah,
And I'm sure a lot
same.
of Gears of War fans are gearing up to buy the new game, but it's
Yeah,
not me,
it's like
man.
I loved Halo, but I didn't love Halo enough. I loved enough to have the first Xbox, but not to get the 360 to play the last one. And one game isn't going to do it for me. It's got to be a lot of games I want to play.
Not
Now,
only
I have
that, but
mixed feelings about that because this is an artificial construction. That
Yeah,
there's no reason that these games wouldn't run on a P or on an Xbox other than licensing and exclusivity.
well,
yeah.
uh, I getting along with that, getting along with the exclusivity and the Xbox. Xbox has announced another makes sense announcement, but one that might hurt them is they have announced that there's no exclusivity for the first year. That none of the games that are coming out will only be on that new system for the first year. It's
Well, I mean, what
almost it's almost like like they're saying, "Hey, move over to the new one when you want to. You don't have to buy it this holiday." Is it almost like they're saying, "We don't know if we can have enough supplies, so don't rush out and buy it because it may not be there"?
well, as far as exclusives go, what do they have? They have the Halo series, they have the Gear series, and then maybe one of the racing ones, and then I can't really think of anything else that's really a flagship for them.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
so
But I
they've
mean,
never really put their chips in on the exclusives, anyways.
But in this last generation, because Microsoft has a bigger bank than Sony, not much, but they do have a bigger bank than Sony, they acquired a lot of studios this last generation when they
Yeah.
weren't doing anything because they were planning on winning this next one. They have Double Fine, they already have Rare, um, and they have a bunch of others that I can't think of right this second, but I know they're there. Uh,
But there again, name a single game that Rare has put out since they've been an exclusive,
right,
or even since they left Nintendo.
right, right. I mean, I'm sorry, but Rare in N64. I mean, they made N64.
They wanted to be Square in that regard, and they were not Square.
No,
The other thing that really surprised me from the PS5 product announcement was the focus on indie games. That you usually don't see them talk about smaller developers. They usually are talking about their blockbuster hits,
outside of
and
Nintendo.
right outside of I feel like in a lot of ways that PS5 is taking some plays from Nintendo's book, both in getting away from tech specs and in a focus on indie games. They usually talk about their AAA titles, and they did, but they also included these really kind of interesting looking games. The one about the cats,
Yeah,
Stray,
Yeah,
yeah,
that
that looked
looks
interesting.
very like an art house game of some kind. The
I will
Devil
buy that, by the way.
Inside, Astro's Playroom, this Volcano High game. I'm I know the demographic for that. Um, Project Athia. I'm looking at a list of them here. Yeah, a bunch of indie games that I'm glad to see focus on that kind of thing because very often the most creative, the most innovative stuff comes from games of that kind. And the big blockbusters are expected, you know what to expect from them, but you see
Yeah.
art from indie developers.
so we're coming up on 7:30, so I want to finish this YouTube portion with one thing that's been on everybody's mind: price. Now,
Mm.
the price um, on Amazon the other day, there was a not a leak essentially, but an accidental post and quick takedown um, from the Sony PlayStation account. So it wasn't just like some random person. It was the Sony PlayStation account posting on Amazon, basically getting the sale page ready, and they accidentally published it. Or not. They may not have accidentally published it, just to get people talking. Um, but it did have, and it was in euros. It wasn't in U.S. dollars. But essentially, they had the digital version of the PlayStation at $400 and the physical edition at $500. Is essentially how it equates to, and that I can get behind. That pricing I it's pretty predictable. Um, the the
That works
one
for me.
the one thing that I think that a lot of people are wondering about is what exactly is the big difference between the disk system and the all digital system? I mean, I understand that it's supposed to run physical media, but maybe there's a feature that PlayStation is holding close to the vest that harkens back to a developer post back 2 years ago, which was saying not to throw away your old discs. Maybe this is the system that if if you have the digital system, PlayStation Now is the only thing that you have an option for. Which there's a lot of really great games on PlayStation Now. I'm thinking about doing it just so we can play Metal Gear Solid 3. Um, but what if the disc system has the ability to play any PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, and PlayStation 4 physical discs right out of the box.
That seems a bit ambitious for them to uh, go that far back to PS1, but it is an interesting thought that some backwards compatibility, at least with PS4, will predicate on the disc version, having the disc of it.
I mean, they have sold a lot of PlayStation Now subscriptions just for people that want to play these older games. So the market is definitely there. So and people are are wanting these other companies to have these older games, these older back catalog games. So that might be a possibility. Another possibility that the economist was talking about, and a couple speculators were talking about, and I actually kind of hope that this might become a possibility. To a point. Um, in that, so I don't know if you guys remember Microsoft's Xbox subscription service that they came out with here last year, and there wasn't a huge adoption. I don't even know if they still have the program. Um, but it was essentially that okay, so you got your Xbox Live, that's $10 a month, essentially. And then you have your Xbox Game Pass, which is $10 a month, essentially. Okay? For $50 a month, you would get Xbox Live, Xbox Game Pass, and then you could lease an Xbox. They would send you the unit. It was $50 a month. What if Sony was planning to do something like that right out of the gate? PlayStation 5, $50 a month, all digital version, and you get the PlayStation Now account, and you get the PlayStation Network account, and essentially the $30 is for leasing the system. What do you Would you guys be on board for something like that? To be able to try out the new Spider-Man game for a couple months. Kind of like I did with the Switch. Borrowing Mike's Switch. I borrowed the Switch and I played it, and then 6 months later, I bought my own because I'm like, hey, I want to have one in my living room for the foreseeable future.
I wouldn't want that. I'm not the audience for that. When I buy something, I want to have it and not worry about a payment related to it. But I do think that is the future, is product as a subscription.
I I get that for software, but I can't see it as hardware because you if you do it for 1 month and then say, "Hey, I decided I don't want this," and they gotta refurbish one, they gotta ship off to somewhere else, and I think people get kind of weird about having used ones or refurbished ones or ones that got somebody else's fingerprints on it already.
Post pandemic. Yeah, I didn't even
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
about that.
Yeah. I do think that is the future, though, is hardware as a service.
Hardware as a service. I mean, we're already going in the direction of server as a service. That's exactly what Stadia is. That's what Xbox Game Pass is. Um, and I think in some aspects that's how PlayStation Now is. I don't think it is in all aspects because I know that there's still a download and a running on your system, but I don't know if that's for all aspects. I gotta look more into it. But you get what I'm saying. There's the server on as a service is definitely be getting some very big steam. Um, but I don't know. Hardware as a service is yeah, I agree with you, Alex. That might be where the industry is going.
And then one of these days, Stadia or a successor of it is going to be all there is. And there's not going to be any new game consoles of any kind.
Right.
Oh.
Uh, I'm a little more pessimistic than usual today.
Yeah.
It's raining. It's miserable.
Yeah. That's supposed to rain all next week.
Yeah.
So anyway, Um, we'll see what happens.
On that
Um,
cheerful note, we are excited about PS5. There's a lot of great games on it. I feel like we didn't talk enough about games in this episode.
well,
Um,
I mean, that's definitely something that we can continue talking about after, for the audio portion of this. So, I feel because I actually looked at my list and I was like, you know what? Let's just save this. Let's just save this for the audio portion. So anyway, I'm going to sign off on the YouTube side. So anyway, this has been RGCWV Random Geek Culture in West Virginia. Tonight we were talking about PlayStation 5 and its reveal event and also the other gaming news and buzz and speculation that came around it this week. With me tonight was Mike Mallow
Yo.
and now Alex McLean.
oh, hey, hey.
Welcome to the end.